Welcome to True Word, Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn, where in-depth biblical teaching meets the richness of original languages and cultural context, bringing the truth of Scripture to real people for real life every single episode. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up and subscribing.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Well, you might be thinking. By the way, I'm just going to warn you right up front, if you're a new listener, today is a little bit different than what we normally do. Occasionally, I will do geopolitical stuff. I will do anti-terrorism stuff. You'll see. If you join up, you'll see. We'd love to have you join us on Rumble and on YouTube. True Word, Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn. Today's going to be different. Today is controversial, and it follows on. It really should be a part two of an episode I did, which is available. It has to do with the truth about Palestine, and I've done some on Islam, explaining what you don't know about Islam. Those are all free. They're on a Rumble platform. They're also on our YouTube platform, both under True Word, Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn. So welcome to everybody. Welcome to everybody in chat. So good to hear you. I hope you got to listen to yesterday's episode. Boy, was that a mess. Trying to fix that. I did a technical thing that I should not have tried without practicing it. And yeah, that was a mess. I tried to add two questions from Dennis, kind of last second questions, but I want him to ask. I tried to change the podcast to include those questions, and I had go back in, and it's all a big setup thing. It's a lot more to it than you would ever believe. I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, all that said to say, for somebody else, probably super easy. They're like, this guy, not very smart guy. This guy showing green. Got all the sheepskin on the wall. He's stupid. He's dumb from Sussex County. This guy. No, I have to tell you, man, oh man. I didn't realize if you change a little thing, it changes everything. Got to redo everything and all that stuff. So we had to recreate the episode in just a couple of minutes, and then go on live again. So if you missed it because of that, I apologize. I'd love for you to see it. Broken stones. Tough. It's a tough one. But a beautiful one. So let's see. All right. Let me see. Dennis. See, I just told on you. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's see what we got going here. Got a lot of people texting me here, and I hope everybody's all right. I hope everybody's all right that's listening. God bless you. Everybody's got their struggles. But that's life. Life is a struggle. So, okay, one thing I wanted to kind of ask the audience, a couple things, two questions really, is the Se'arat Hashem Olam, or Olam, depending on how you which word you want to use in Hebrew, where I did 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of episodes. And maybe I should do them at the end. I don't know. For those that want to hear, I'd maybe do them at the end. But I wanted to know, I haven't done them in a while because I didn't get any feedback on doing them. I did them for, maybe maybe a month or two. And that's where I go in deep on some geopolitical stuff, events around the world, current events, stuff that's happening, in the United States, stuff that's happening around the world, and the implications therein, drawing on my weird experience and expertise. I didn't get a lot of feedback on it, so I stopped doing it. Didn't get a lot of feedback on, hey, stop doing the Se'arat Hashem Olam. So I'm just going to ask outright, is it something worth doing? I put a lot into it, and if it's a waste of your time, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I want to be the podcast you just can't stand to miss, right? Mondays at 10 a.m., Fridays at 6 p.m., and Sundays at 3. I want to deliver what is a blessing and what is useful to you. So just your feedback, I'd love to have that in comments, or you can email me at smgreener@gmail.com. Put them in comments. Engagement is good, pushes you up in the algorithm, all that stuff. Also, thumbs up, good. If you're not a subscriber, click on, if you're listening on X or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitch or any of those places, go to Rumble. Go to both. I mean, it's free to do both. Go to both, Rumble and YouTube, True Word Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn, and become a subscriber on YouTube and a follow on Rumble. That would be super, super, super awesome. Anyway, Rumble's a less restrictive platform than YouTube is. I don't know that YouTube will allow this. So as this comes up and I do it live, I don't know that the whole thing will be played. Now, I'm not some big person. I have 3,000 subscribers here. I'm not some big influence, but they'll shut you down and shut you off. No problem at all. They'll deplatform you. I don't make any money so far off of this, even though I have reached the 1,000. I haven't met the other requirements that they have. So I don't know that if I have, it's like $1. You know what I mean? It's a micro amount. So you need to have massive numbers of subscribers and views and all of that in order for it to make any financial sense. So I keep pushing, hoping to be relevant and useful to you folks. So every now and then I'll do an episode like this, which is as the result of questions that people have. Now, if I were to do a Se'erat Hashem Olam today, I would talk about Iran and Israel. And I would explain to folks, I would help them understand that this is not a recent conflict. This is a conflict that's been going on for a very, very long time. And Iran is Persia, and that's what it is. Iran is Persia. But I want to be clear, the people of Iran don't want this theocracy. They don't want this horrible. They don't want all this stuff going on. They don't want this. They don't want this. They want to be free. They want to go back to how they were before 1979. They don't love it. Just like the people that are dealing with the Taliban. They don't like it. They don't like it. They hate it. They want to live free, especially the women. Women want to live free. The girls want to go to school. They want to have jobs. They don't want to run around in a burqa. They don't want that. They want to be free. They want freedom. But it's up to them to fight for it and win it. Now, in this case, I want to be clear here. If Iran leaves Israel alone and they stop doing all their terrorism and all that stuff, because they're the number one world sponsor of terrorism, nothing happens, right? Nothing but peace. Peace happens. I shouldn't say nothing happens. Peace happens. But if Israel just stopped dealing with Iran, and they've been very hands off, quite frankly. They've been very, very hands off. Now, having worked with Mossad, I can tell you best they make the agency look feckless. By comparison, no comparison. The Mossad is like the super CIA, and fantastic. They're really incredible, highly effective, and so. If they stopped all that, if they stopped doing all the intel and all the stuff they're doing to protect themselves, not just against Iran, but all the other places that want to kill them, countries the size of New Jersey. That's how big Israel is. It should be much bigger. Now, I've done broadcasts, I've done episodes on really the truth about Palestine. That's one that I give you all the details about where the lines are and where their country really should be. What God gave them, and then what they settled for. Anyway, so if Israel stopped fighting, there'd be no more Israel. They'd wipe Israel off the map. This whole from the river to the sea, that would push Jews into the ocean and drown them. That's what they want. And so Israel has to fight hard for it. Israel's an amazing country, responsible for more critical patents than the next 10 countries, including the United States, combined. They have just an incredible intellect there. The way they operate is quite something. Now, not a perfect country, not by any means. They got their stuff. They got their hurts, habits, and hangups. And you can quibble about Bibi Netanyahu all you want, but the thing is, You know how I got the nickname? We were on a show once in the green room at the same time, and we were chatting back and forth, and he was to go on after me. He was the big guest, and I'm the lead-in. And we were chatting. He introduced himself like, I don't know who he is. He's an amazing man. And so he gave me the nickname The Ninja Pastor, which my dear friend, who is now in heaven, Jerry Summers, said, we need to trademark that. And so we did. Anyway, the point is he has a clear understanding of what Israel really needs to do. He's a master of Scripture, by the way, an incredibly knowledgeable Jew, incredibly knowledgeable, educated in the United States at the highest institutions, very, 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 very genius sort of dude. Well, he understands what he's up against. The problem is politics, right? So politics geopolitical strife, this deal from other countries that say, hey, I don't want to be dealing with all this. I'm going to put this pen in my pocket, make me seem smarter, right? I need some round glasses. I had some round glasses for a while, and people said, oh, they really make you look studious. Miss Colleen didn't love it, but I like them. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this, by the way. Iran doesn't care about round glasses. They don't care at all. Anyway, so, Israel, they just want to be left alone, right? They generate tremendous things, tremendous value. It's an incredible, incredible country. But they have their struggles, right? They have people make aliyah, which is aliyah is to ascend, to come to the homeland from anywhere around the world. You're a Jew, you say, I want to go back to the homeland, right? The biblical homeland. You go back, you make aliyah, you become a citizen there, and it's packed. It's kind of packed, and you got people lobbing missiles and rockets at you all the time from all around you, and not for nothing, that's a little stressful. Yet they're some of the happiest people in the world, and you wonder why. You say, okay, what's behind that? So, leading to what's going on now, right? I had a buddy of mine, Mossad guy, older man, still in Mossad. There's no age limitation over there. You can be effective at a very old age. And many of their operations have been carried out by elderly people and very young people that look like children, but they're, they just look young. And, they work with that. Amazing. Mossad is amazing. Anyway, so my buddy, he's in his 80s now. He's involved in some very, very major operations, one of which against Iran, and where they infiltrated their power grid system. And there's a series called Tehran. I think it's called Tehran. I don't remember what it's called, but I think it was on Apple TV, or I don't remember what it was, but it was very good. I don't think they make it anymore, but did a few seasons of it, and very, very good, and very, very accurate. And so the whole thing is like he actually infiltrated their main power company, which is government run, but and worked with another spy, Mossad agent, to strategically have a power outage, just the right time, if you know what I'm saying. Boom, boom. And so they can infiltrate. You remember the beeper mission, where they infiltrated the beeper supply line, and they put bombs in, very small bombs, but bombs nonetheless, in beepers and pagers, and that were used by Hamas and Hezbollah. And so at the appointed time, beep, beep, boom. And you see all of them on video. There were many, many more than what were shown. Some of the people weren't, where there would be video. And they just blew up. Many of them died. Thankfully, a horrible, horrific, painful death, which is what they deserve. It's what they have coming. And some of them were virtually blown in half. And, if you knew the evil of these people, they're just evil. But amazingly, the people around them weren't injured. And that's how Israel operates. That's not how Iran operates. So let's look really quickly at the two things. We got Iran lobbing missiles into civilian areas. They're not hitting military targets. They're hitting civilian targets. They don't care. What do they care? They don't care. They don't care about people. The people of Iran, again, beautiful people. Government, not so much. And that's the case in a lot of governments. Russia, obviously, I operated and dealt a lot with Russia and Ukraine. And I can tell you that Putin, evil, diabolical, just psychopathic. He's just a bad dude. But many of the Russians, most of the Russian people, just general Russian people, they don't want any of this mess. They just want to live. They just want to live. They want to live. They don't want all of this. And most of them love America. They love the West. They are very interested in it. They don't want a war. They don't want to fight Ukraine. They don't care about that. That's a very small faction in a very, geographically speaking, a very small area. Anyway, so where does that lead us to the message for today, right? So you might be thinking, so what if Mecca isn't where Islam says it is? Now, that may be the first time you've ever heard that Mecca isn't where Islam says it is, right? You may have never heard that. You may have never considered this Mecca thing they keep talking about in Islam. Is this real? Is this true? You might say, so what if Mecca isn't where Islam says? Look, I'm not a Muslim. I've got bills. I've got stress, and I'm living in a world that's falling apart. How in the world does this impact me? Well, because, and here's how. I mean, this is as simple as it gets. Because truth, objective, historical, unchanging truth is under attack. Capital T, truth is under attack. And when a religion commands allegiance from nearly 2 billion people, go back and listen to my episode, The Truth About Islam. You really listen to it. And then listen to The Truth About Palestine. You're going to start to see, hey, 2 billion and growing. That number's a little low. And growing super fast. Rests on a false foundation. By the way, remember what I said about religion. Islam is not a religion. It is a RPM. All you have to remember is RPM, religious, political, and military ideology. It's not a religion. It was fabricated for a purpose, right? And cloaked under religion. Anyway, listen to that episode. I'd love for you to hear that and love your comments on it. Again, putting comments in. Send me questions, absolutely, smgreener@gmail.com. Send me those questions 100% and for sure. I'd love to have your questions. You know I'd love it. But also put them in comments to the extent that you can. Put them in comments because comments are engagement. That's what we need. And I'll respond to you in comments, but I'll also respond to your email, smgreener@gmail.com. By the way, if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, right there, see that OCR code? The code right there with all the little blah, blah, blah. That is the code, the direct link. You put your phone over that camera, being your camera. It doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or Android camera, and you'll see a little link pop up. You click on that link. That'll take you to my book, and you can order that today. All of the profits from that book go to furthering this podcast. It's a new book, and we'd love for you to have it. And let us know what you think of it. Review's pretty good on it. Anyway, and leave a review. By the way, go back to that. If you've purchased the book, go back to that link and leave us a review. That's very helpful. It's the same way with everything runs off algorithm. So, truth is under attack. Capital T, truth is under attack. And when a religion that commands allegiance from nearly just over 2 billion people when this rests on a false foundation, the consequences aren't just theological. They're political, they're military, they're cultural, and they're personal. Look at your community. How much maybe where you live, your community has acquiesced to Islam and the dealings with Islam, the ramifications of Islam. Look at it. I mean, hey, that's real stuff. Politically, the political impact of it, politics. We have Ilhan Omar that's in our Congress. It's insane. It's insane. She can't, by her own faith, she can't swear an oath. Right? We got Keith Ellison of Minnesota. He's now the Attorney General of Minnesota. Can't swear an oath by Islam. The only way he can is if he lies. Taqiyya. And I teach all the different things. There's like 6 different reasons they can lie in Islam in order to advance Islam. Taqiyya is one of them. So, and then there's all the cultural changes and all of the things that have to happen, the sensitivities and all this. So, and by the way, I have many friends, shocking, I know, that are Muslim, and I really, really like them. I have worked with Muslims, and I've entrusted my life to very few of them, but the few that I entrusted them to were worthy of that, and they proved themselves of that. But yet, we also know Extortion 1.7. Google that. Extortion 1.7, where the gold team of DevGru, you probably would know them as SEAL Team 6. There were 7 people on that aircraft, Extortion 1.7, that last-minute Afghans should have never been there. And then we have the whole thing with the ramp ceremony, which I will fault Admiral McRaven forever for that. He had an imam speak, and they did not have an interpreter present, and we had it interpreted by people with CIA level 5 proficiency, and he prayed a curse upon all the dead SEALs and even the dog and all of the West in America. And meanwhile, they're standing there, thank you, being very, because they had 7 people also die. The 7 people are, I think, part of the reason why they died. Anyway, different episode, and one in and of itself. I have many experts who I can have come on and talk about that, even some who lost their sons on Extortion 1.7, and we can talk about that at some point in the future. Anyway, if you're interested. So, in chat, C. Mitchell says, I would not want to be on a Mossad's list. No, you would not. You would not want to be on Mossad's list. They are pretty dramatic. And C says at the start of the show, because the endings are usually dramatic. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll take that as a compliment. And Miss Sharon, I appreciate your chiming in with your input as well. Currently having current events explained. Thank you. The feedback is good so far. So I will look at re-entering that just because I have respect. By the way, Robert, glad to see you. I hope you're okay. We have all been praying for you. By the way, I was privileged to sit next to Miss Sharon yesterday in church at the Virginia Creek Campground Chapel and listen to my friend Jason preach. And it's Pastor Russell Wright is the pastor there, and they have a chapel there. It's a wonderful service. Got to see my friends do a puppet show at Not What Would You Think. Amazing, just amazing puppet show. But I got to sit next to Miss Sharon, and she gave me and Miss Colleen the most lovely gift. And she's very crafty, very, very crafty. She can make really cool things. And so I will treasure that always, just so you know. Thank you so much for that. That touched my heart so much. You have no idea. Anyway, so when entire regimes and radical ideologies justify violence, oppression, and the rewriting of history based on a city that might not even be what they claim. Because remember, Mecca, Martin, good to see you, brother. Love you, man. So we've been praying for you as well. So when the entire thing is centered on Mecca, right? You may not know, but they go to Mecca. They make the pilgrimage to Mecca, and they're all there and the center. And there's a big long explanation for all of it. I won't go into all of it right now, but because I need to get to the history and the geopolitical other stuff, and then the historical documents and the connections and all that. The tethers, everything is tethered. But not for nothing. The entire regime of Islam and the radical ideologies. You say, well, Christians have had their thing, and Jews have had their thing. They've done their thing. They've done bad things. Listen, they're not blowing people up. Well, we say, well, you talked about the beeper thing. Well, I wonder why. Because they blew up the people, the beepers, on the people who were blowing up Jews, killing Jews, vowing to eradicate, eliminate, make disappeared the Jews. That's the real deal now. We got to be honest about what's real and what's not. That's what the real thing is. So my point is this a whole different thing. The whole thing is a radical ideology. And now look, I understand that you may have friends or neighbors who are Muslim who are nice. And you say, my kids play with their kids. They're lovely people. I just can't believe they would be this or that. I understand. 100% I understand that. I get it. I 100% get it. And for me personally, I get the challenge of, wait a second, the hijackers lived in neighborhoods and worked with people and over a decade here. I don't understand these. They came over to our house. They came to barbecues. They were like our friends. They can't possibly be. And they were. I'm not saying all of them are like that. Look, a religious, political, and military ideology, religion for those who kind of blindly follow, for many, they don't know all this stuff. They don't have the knowledge of it, right? And I'm teaching the Bible, right, and True Word, Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn, Hebraic, language, culture, context, all of these things, the Aramaic, the Koine Greek, all of these things, what the scriptures really mean, all these things. We're teaching these things in depth, and I love to do it, and I love the response I get from you guys from it. That said, you guys are educating yourself. You're intentional. All of this. You read your scriptures, and you're in deep. You're in deep. And listen, let me just say this. Look, there are many Christians. I'm a follower of the way, not a Christian. However, there are many Christians who don't read scripture, who don't pray, who don't seek the truth and dig in deep into the word and try to learn. They just kind of go along. They kind of do the thing. It's the thing we do. I get it. However, to compare that with the sheer number of adherents to Islam who they've never even read the Quran, which I've read the Quran in multiple languages 4 different times, and then several times in English, in different English translations. The Umdat al-Salik, which is the reliance of the traveler. That's the real book on Muslims, how to be a good Muslim. If you read that, it's quite eye-opening. Today's episode is heavily researched, obviously, not just my background. It's a weird background, I assure you, but it's also through friendships with different scholars, the writings of different scholars who really have made a difference. They've made a difference. They've done the research, and it's all heavily footnoted. I can actually email you my footnotes if you'd like that, my bibliography, if you will. If you send an email to smgreener@gmail.com, you got to be a subscriber to either, I'd like both, Rumble, click on follow, and then True Word Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn on YouTube. I'd love for you to do that. I will send you my footnotes and my bibliography and all that. Anyway, from this episode. Hey, look, some people want that. I'm one of those weird people. Oh, by the way, Miss Sharon, yesterday I complimented on air your note-taking. I happened to notice your note-taking, and it's the same method I use, and it's the same method I would teach in Bible college. I would explain to people, listen, as I'm rattling off scriptures, because I'm going to use a whole lot of scriptures usually in my teaching and my preaching, it is easier and more effective if you have a line, a series of lines going down, well, one line over here for the name or book or whatever, the word is. And then if there are numbers, chapter and verse, another line for chapter, another line for verse, you go down. Write the chapter and verse first and then go back and write it like if Psalms, 23:2. Well, you might not remember, you're going to remember Psalms. You're going to remember that. That's going to stick out. But the numbers you might not remember, and it's precise, got to be precise, 23:2. I'm just using that as an example. Write the numbers down first, then go back and write down the word, Psalms, Revelation, whatever. So I complimented you, Miss Sharon, on your note-taking. It's excellent, excellent, excellent. And I know several others of you write excellent notes. You take excellent notes. By the way, C. Mitchell mentioned I would not want to be on Massad's list, and I started to mention, and I got off on a track talking about my friend, 80-plus years old. Listen, he's a deadly dude. He's a deadly dude. You won't see it coming, and they're very effective. I believe, I'll just state this for the facts, for the record. I believe that even though I understand President Trump has said, hey, man, I don't want you to go assassinate Iran's supreme leader and all the religious leaders, the theocratic leadership, because they're the real nut jobs. They want to basically end the world. They want a nuclear. They want to end the Jews and the West first, and then they don't care if they get blown up in the process. They don't care if this all ends, because for them it's a death cult. We're a culture of life. They're a culture of death. It's a death cult. Anyway, so publicly, President Trump says, I don't want you assassinating the leader. Even though, by the way, they have a hit out on, obviously, Benjamin Netanyahu, but they have a hit out on President Trump, Mike Pompeo, and several others. It's a long list. And they're able to carry them out. So we pray for our leaders, pray for our Secret Service, and our different organizations, CIA Protection Group and others who protect our leaders. That said, he's got to say that publicly. President Trump's got to say that publicly because that's what he's got to say. The world's got to hear him saying, I voted no. I told him no to that. I vetoed that plan to the extent that the control he has. But in reality, hey, look, if they can blow those folks up, more power to you. I'm going to tell you, if you were able to kill Kim Jong-un from North Korea, Kim, the supreme leader, the beloved one, if you were able to kill him and about 18 levels beneath him, right? He's 18 floors below ground most of the time, by the way. The bunker is one of the greatest bunkers in the world. It can stand great hit. Yeah, the worst of the worst, and you're not going to get to him. And he's got food for years. Food and oxygen generators and yada, yada. You know what I mean? And that's where the leadership and the supreme leader goes, if there's any problem. Anyway, but if you could take him out, and then you could take out 18 layers beneath him, because those people are insane. They're radically following him because he kills even his family members. He doesn't care. Nobody's safe. So, but those people are completely all in, and so you have to kill them. Unfortunately, that's how it works. I'm sorry, if it hurts your sensibilities, and I get it. Well, same way in Iran, same way in Russia. You have to take out not only the leader, but you've got to take out many levels beneath them in order to get to the people who are just following because they need a job. They need a job. They need the money they get. They need the apartment. They need their family to have the ability to live in relative peace. And they're just working. And when you see the leaders and all those levels beneath them fall, then what happens is the country takes over. And that's how it is in Iran. We had very much had the chance to do this under the Obama Biden administration, and we didn't. Biden and Obama bailed. They left him hanging. And many of the great resistance there in Iran were murdered because of it. And that's on Obama. So all of that said to say, when the entire regime and the radical ideologies that follow those regimes, that characterize those regimes, justify violence, murder, torture, rape, oppression, and, not for nothing, the rewriting of history based on a city that might not even be what they claim. You should care. You say, what's in it for me? You should care. This is what's in it for you because it's all built on fake, because they do. They're building empires on that foundation of Mecca. This isn't about mocking anybody's faith, by the way. This is about holding sacred claims accountable to sacred standards of truth. So let's get into it. So here's a question most people never ask because we're told not to. What if Islam's holiest site, Mecca, isn't what we've been told it is? And I mean that literally. Literally. What if Mecca, the holiest site in all of Iran, all of Islam, holiest site in all of Islam, Mecca, isn't what we've been told it is? What if the city Muslims call the mother of cities, the birthplace of Muhammad, the site of the Kaaba, which is that big black thing you see there, and the sacred pilgrimage of Hajj? What if all of that is based on revisionist religious history, not actual archaeology, geography, or even the earliest texts? Now, before you clutch your pearls, this isn't just some shock jock theory, by the way. We're talking about well-documented academic and historical inquiry, led by great archaeologists, linguists, and even brave Muslim background scholars, a couple of whom I'm friends with. They've been shouting from the wilderness that something about Islam's foundational geography doesn't add up. So we have to walk through this. The traditional Islamic narrative is this, if you didn't know. Muslims are taught that Mecca is the birthplace of Muhammad around AD 570, home of the Kaaba, originally built by Abraham and Ishmael, Abraham and Ishmael. The direction of Islamic prayer, Qibla, toward Mecca, the site of the annual Hajj pilgrimage. Millions and millions of people go there. The city referenced in the Quran as the sacred mosque and the mother of cities for 1.9, actually now it's more like 2.4 billion. The numbers are in dispute, but the fact of the matter is it's over 2 billion Muslims. Right? You think about how many people are in the world. And that number are Muslims. Hey man, you got to pay attention. Got to pay attention. Oh, there must be an emergency because that's the only way that can get through. Let me check and make sure everybody's all right. Everything's all right. So, look, this is settled truth, my friends. Settled truth. And we have to understand it's absolutely critical. There we go. Let's hope that works. Absolutely critical. When you have that number of Muslims, the ratio of Muslims to other or not any religion at all is massive. And for 2 billion Muslims, billion with a B, Muslims, this is settled truth. Questioning it? Oh, you're going to get dead. You're going to get unalived. It's dangerous. It's deadly. But here's the problem. No one outside Islamic tradition mentions Mecca for over 100 years after Muhammad supposedly died. Not the Romans, not the Persians, Iran, not a single geographer, not a single trade ledger, or a single military chronicle, not even a whisper of this city that's supposedly the center of everything in Arabia. Then we have number 2, the historical controversy, a missing city. William Federer, who I've done things with William. Look, Bill Federer, he does the American Minute and just an amazing historian. He doesn't just deal with Islam, but he wrote a great book, did videos, audio recordings and all that. Just amazing. I've seen him do what he does. He's a savant, no doubt about it. But Bill Federer makes the point plainly. For a place supposedly, as supposedly central as Mecca, its silence in the historical record is deafening. I want you to think about it. If Mecca, and this is also what Bill Federer says, if Mecca was a major trade hub, wouldn't Roman or Greek or Persian records show it on maps? Or at least mention it in passing. Yet early maps of Arabia show other cities like Petra, Tema, Dedan, and Yathrib, which is Medina, but not Mecca. They show all those other cities, but not Mecca. Not on a single map. Not mentioned in a single document. And then, hey, there's this bombshell. Multiple scholars and archaeologists, including Dan Gibson, claim that the earliest mosques point not to Mecca, but to Petra. That's right, Petra in Jordan. If you're unfamiliar, this is the place. Petra is the place of rock-carved tombs in a region it's full of olive groves, valleys, and rivers, things the Quran describes, but they do not exist in the rocky, arid, desolated basin of Mecca. The Quran describes olives. None grow in Mecca. None grow there. The very Quran, the holy and sacred book of Islam, describes olives and the green and all of this. That doesn't exist in Mecca. Nowhere around it. It's arid, it's rocky, it's desert, it's terrible. It's a basin. No olives grow in Mecca. It references, the Quran references agriculture and water courses. Mecca doesn't have them. They don't exist there. Never have. Never will. It calls the city a place of traffic and bounty, yet it's not on any major trade route from the first few centuries. So where was the original Islamic center? It cannot be Mecca. Then there's number 3, the Petra theory and northern origins. Enter revisionist historians like Patricia Crone, Michael Cook, and Tom Holland, who've taken a flamethrower to the official story. Crone's groundbreaking work, and that's in the bibliography and the footnotes as well, by the way. That's all in there. And if you send me the email, smgreener@gmail.com, I would absolutely love to send them to you. Crone's groundbreaking work with Meccan trade and the rise of Islam argues that Mecca wasn't a trade hub at all. It was obscure. It was insignificant and likely added into Islamic memory long after the fact. So you're looking at this and you say, okay, it was such an important area. Full of olives, full of greenery, full of water courses, full of all this advancement, and yet none of that was true. Wasn't true then, not true now. And then you look at it was the center of Meccan trade, and it was the basis for the rise of Islam. It wasn't a trade hub at all. It was insignificant and totally obscure. And it was added after the fact. Dan Gibson, through exhaustive Qibla analysis and satellite imagery, concluded that the earliest mosques from China to North Africa pointed to Petra, not Mecca. Then you have Tom Holland, who lays it all out in the shadow of the sword, the Quran's language, references, and religious context make far more sense in Syria or Nabatea, where Judaism, Christianity, and pagan cults were already mixing. And guess what? Even the Arabic of the Quran shows signs of northern dialects not Hijazi, which was a dialect native to the Meccan region. Are you listening? Here's number 4. Muslim scholars push back. To be fair, traditional Islamic scholars aren't silent on this. They're not going, well, it's interesting. It's interesting. By the way, people, you say something against Muhammad, you disagree in some way with anything in Islam, your life is at risk. This is not hyperbole. This is true, borne out by, so many murders, so much torture. This is real. You speak out against it, be prepared. Traditional Islamic scholars, they haven't sat on their hands. They say the Quran clearly speaks of the Kaaba and the sacred mosque. Oral tradition preserved Mecca's importance long before it was written down. The Roman and Persian empires ignored Arabia's deep interior, which could explain Mecca's absence in their records. Petra theories rely too heavily on ambiguous and archaeological evidence, and of course, they're offended. I get that. I get it. This cuts deep. Look, this isn't just a geographic claim. It's a theological one. But when your religion claims historical revelation, this is a centerpiece of your religion, you're opening the door to historical inquiry. That's what we must do. We must do it with our faith, and we must do it with Islam. You've got to have historical inquiry. Things have to match up. That's the cost of claiming absolute truth. Because remember, Islam is the only, and everything else are apostate. Everybody else is the infidel, and they're to kill everyone else. Even bad Muslims, they're to kill. So, number 5, if you're writing these down, why does it all matter? So, why do we care? Why do we care? Why do you care? Why even talk about it? I'm going to get hate mail from this. I might get deplatformed from YouTube for it. Not kidding, not hyperbole. I've seen it before. Why even care about it? Why talk about it? Because if the Islamic story of Mecca is based on mythologized geography, then the entire narrative of Muhammad's call, the Quran's descent, and the Hajj pilgrimage is on shaky ground at best. My friends, that's not Islamophobia. That's archaeology and its historiography. Bill Federer points out, and he does this if you've ever seen him lecture on this, if you ever get a chance, if he's ever anywhere near where you are, and you get a chance to have him lecture, I'm going to try to have him on here. He's in very high demand. He's a very busy man. But he points this out on numerous lectures. Islam arose in a power vacuum as the Byzantine and the Persian empires were both in decline. A strong Arab empire needed a unifying narrative. And what better than a sacred city connected to Abraham, trade, and divine revelation? It's political theology, packaged as history. And it's not true. It's not supported in any way. And in a world where radical Islam is resurging, it is absolutely resurging, folks. You have people all over the world out in riots and protests for Palestine and all of this. But really what it turns out to be is anti-Israel, anti-Jew, anti-Semitic. And they're just walking around doing whatever they want. They're in universities in the U.S. and all over the world. My friends, this is real. This is real. This is going on. And the second Holocaust is right around the corner. Because right before your eyes, Islam is centered on killing the Jews. I don't know what it is, dang it. Might be some alarm. I'm supposed to not. Anyway, let me turn this off. Anywho, there we go. We got her. Sorry about that. I have backup screens. I got my iPad backed up ready to go in case this drops, my main computer, and then I've got a laptop backed up. Oh, man. Right? And C is right. They're all over Twitter/X. Right? They're all over it. This is reality. This is not something made up. This is not hyperbole. A little bright there, aren't I? There we go. A little better. Bright. Barely see. Good lands. Too much light. But you have to understand, radical Islam is resurging all over the world. You've got Europe just totally overrun. There's no attempt to assimilate. I don't want that. You're the infidel. They don't want to be like you. I encourage you, I can't encourage you more to watch those episodes. The Truth About Islam, The Truth About Palestine. What You Don't Know. It's titled as What You Don't Know About Islam, Part 1 and Part 2. All free on Rumble and also on the YouTube channel. And I explain all that stuff. It's real important to know. I talk about the cities in the United States that are run under Sharia law. You say, no, that's not true. That would be on the news. Yeah. There's cities in Michigan, Sharia. Anyway, it's indisputable. Radical Islam is resurging. You're seeing all of these things happening right in front of your eyes. Rightly connect them to radical Islam. It's so incredibly important. You got to do it. You got to make that connection. I know it's uncomfortable. You say, man, I don't. That's unpopular. That ain't woke. Radical Islam is supported by governments like Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Erdogan is a nut job. Turkey's an amazing country, by the way. Bible's all over that. Saudi Arabia, hey, the Crown Prince appears to love President Donald J. Trump. The welcome he got is the welcome of the supreme leader. I don't know if you know that. A lot of symbolism, the hair whipping. I talk about that in those other episodes I mentioned. And in other places. I talk about that. That hair whipping freaked a lot of people out. That's a traditional thing reserved only for the highest level, even above the Crown Prince. That's what they treated him. That's what they treated Donald Trump. It's amazing if it's real. I don't know if it is. I don't know if it isn't. They want to work with the United States. They want to grow. He's progressive, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Trust but verify. Look, we better understand. You had better understand the true roots of Islam, not just the tourist brochure version. There's this young lady, Itchy Boots, Norley. She is from Holland. She's Dutch. And she travels around. The name of her podcast is Itchy Boots, and I watch it. She travels all around the world on a motorcycle. And she went to Yemen. She's Saudi Arabia, all the places. But she went to Yemen, and she's written a book. And, the publisher has a book tour scheduled for her. I think it's going on right now in the United States. And so several weeks back, she did this post where she's like, I'm not going to go to the United States. I'm very disappointed, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid that they'll put me in prison there, that Trump will put me in prison, because of what's happening there. By the way, not. Because of what I do in the places I've been. Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. You're going to get questioned. Oh, absolutely. Try to go into Israel. Listen, try to go several places. They're going to go, no. You don't belong going there. Why are you going there? Well, I'm a motorcycle tourist. I travel all over. And I look at different things and I film it. Which, by the way, her stuff is really good. Super liberal lady, but she keeps most of that to herself. Keeps her sexuality to herself. She doesn't do any of that. She just rides a motorcycle and talks about it. And great cinematography. She's phenomenally talented and massive following. But she did this post, and I responded to her, and I said, "You're afraid to come to America because you're afraid you're going to get locked up because of the places you've been? Afraid? Yet you're not afraid to go to any of these countries. You know, Yemen, where you have to be accompanied by bodyguards and a group of men. You can't go anywhere by yourself. And no, not for nothing. Women aren't allowed to ride motorcycles in Yemen. She got some special approval. Just provided these people, the trucks in front, trucks in back, are with her. And she rides the motorcycle they give her to ride. Sure. And she goes on and on about how nice they are to her. Oh, they're so nice. People are so wrong about these places. They're not bad people. And you're right. There are many not bad people in many of the Muslim places. But I'll tell you what, filming, and she's filming, when she comes around a corner and there's women in full burqa, I mean, the only thing you see is the screen, the small screen where they're supposed to see out of. By the way, many of them go blind. Many of the women go blind at a very early age. No illness. It just comes from seeing through dark and seeing through these little screens. It jacks you up. It's very bad for your eyes. Anyway, you see them scurry. They scurry. They're not allowed to be on screen. And you see all these setup things where these little kids come to, hello, 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 you know, and there's these exchanges and thank you for coming to our country. We appreciate it. What can we do for you? Here's some water. Now, I will tell you, the people in the Middle East are warm people. By and large, they are warm people. And if you're a guest, they take that very seriously. They like visitors to their country. As long as you do the rules, you follow the rules, you're good to go. But she wrote this post, and I said, come on. You know, I'm a faithful listener. I listen to what you do, and I watch what you do, and you do great stuff. But come on now, now you're being theatrical. You're virtue signaling. You know as well as I know, you're not afraid to come to America. You're just sending a signal to your liberal audience, which they were, I'm so embarrassed of our government. You know, this guy, I won't even name him, Orange Man. It's just so embarrassing. Meanwhile, he receives a king's welcome in Saudi Arabia. They're so embarrassed. They want to continue doing all the crazy policies that we've been doing. Come on. Itchy Boots, see, you're absolutely right. You took the word right out of my mouth. Sounds like Itchy Boots might be a useful idiot. It's true. And the fact of the matter of it is, she is doing her American book tour. She's on it right now. And the reason why is because her publisher, she can say, well, I reconsidered and I just figured, you know what, I'm just going to do it. No, your publisher who gave you an advance and everything she does is funded by sponsors. The motorcycle she rides provided, the care is provided, her outfits are provided, everything on that motorcycle provided. The helmet is a specially designed helmet for her provided. All of her cameras provided. She makes an incredible income doing it. God bless her. She's built it up from nothing. I watched from the beginning. Hi, Charlotte. Good to see you. God bless you. I love that picture on your YouTube. I think you're watching on YouTube. That's an awesome, what do they call it? Thumbnail. So my point is this, is that the publisher came to her and said, look, we've given you an advance. You're going to do the book tour. This is going to happen. And so now she's on it. And I sent that to her very respectfully. I said, hey, come on, let's deal with truth here. I understand your beliefs are what they are, but your experiences are much like what C said, useful idiot, but I put it in a kind of a gentle way, like you understand that you're being manipulated here. You're being used as a political tool. Look how nice these people are. And I want you to wonder a little bit about who these people actually are. In a country that's super poor, these people have cars, they have all these supplies, they have all these different things, and people just swarm around them, and just amazingly. Yes, seeing a woman on a motorcycle is a strange occurrence there. Why? Women aren't allowed, as I said, women aren't allowed to ride motorcycles. Anyway, enough of that. But the reason I brought that up is because the tourist brochure version of Islam isn't reality. By the way, I just want to share this with you. Masters International University of Divinity. If you're looking for a flexible, affordable, and theologically solid online degree, visit mdivs.edu, mdivs.edu. I'm a proud alum. They don't pay me a dime for this, but they've completely impacted my life in a very positive way. Don't forget to mention True Word Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn, this episode, or this podcast, and my name, Dr. Shawn Michael Greener. They'll know who I am, and you'll get 10% off of your certificate program tuition. Now, I know, by now, maybe long before now, you must have had the question for me. This question, long before now. From the beginning, probably, of this episode, you might have been thinking, but Dr. Shawn, why would Islam lie about Mecca? What do they gain? Right? That's the real question, right? What do they gain? Why would they lie? Why does anybody lie? Why would anyone fabricate something so central to their faith? Why does anyone lie about something when they're already accepted for who they are and what they are? They don't have to make up some background or some skill set, or they add or embellish. Why? They're already accepted. You've already got the job. You've already got the welcoming. You've already got the respect. You've already got all of these things. You don't need to do it. Why would they do it? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Here's the truth. It's uncomfortable because it's hard to hear. Control requires a center. From the very beginning, Islam, like many rising empires, needed a unifying myth, not just a theology, right? Remember what I said. It's not just a theology. It's a radical political and military ideology. Islam is not a religion. It's a radical R, political P, militaristic ideology M, RPM. It's not a theology. It's not just a theology. It's not just a geography. It's a sacred origin story that would anchor its authority, consolidate its identity, and centralize its power. Mecca became that story. And if Muhammad's revelations are rooted in Mecca and the Kaaba is said to be built by Abraham and Ishmael, then Islam suddenly claims ancient legitimacy. It says, hey, Abraham and Ishmael built this. This is the center. And we come here. We make our pilgrimage, Hajj. We come here by the millions. If it does that successfully, it ties itself to the Hebrew Scriptures. It hijacks Abrahamic heritage and positions itself as the final evolution of God's truth. But here's the problem. The history doesn't match. So why lie? To rewrite history, to revise history in their favor. Islam arose in a power vacuum between collapsing Roman and Persian empires. Anchoring their religious system in a sacred city gave the new Arab Muslim empire divine legitimacy. It's a political move wrapped in religious clothing. To manufacture continuity with Abraham, by claiming Mecca as Abraham's legacy and Muhammad as his spiritual successor. Understand, this is what the claim is. Hey, here is Abraham's successor, Muhammad, the child rapist, the pedophile, the 9 years old. Islam bypasses the Jewish narrative. It says, hey, we don't want that. We don't want that. Don't like the Jews. Supersedes Christian claims. Hey, but don't like the Christians. Look, that's not just theological, it's territorial and it's missional to establish centralized religious control. Think about it. If every Muslim worldwide, 2 billion Muslims, if they must face Mecca when they pray, if they must journey to Mecca at least once during their lifetime for pilgrimage, and they must honor Mecca as the spiritual epicenter of their faith, that's extraordinary power for those who control Mecca. To sustain a global economic and ideological system, this is a power and economy generating system of 2 billion people. Billions flow into Saudi Arabia every year because of the Hajj. Entire economies are built on that pilgrimage alone. And the myth of Mecca sustains the Wahhabi grip on Islamic orthodoxy. Without Mecca, the house of cards starts to shake. Why else? Why else would they do it? Why else would they lie? To avoid collapse. If Islam admits that its holiest city is based on fabricated geography, the domino effect is catastrophic. The Quran's credibility, the hadiths, the entire Islamic narrative of divine revelation, all of it begins to fall apart. So why do they keep lying? Because truth threatens empire. And when your empire rests on a myth, you must protect the myth at all costs. So, is Mecca the real deal? Or is it a sacred fiction, a rebranded Petra, a political tool disguised as divine truth? You decide. You decide. You're grown folk. This will be the 359th video I've done. There's 3,100 and some subscribers here on YouTube. Much smaller number on Rumble. We just got that thing started. And whoever follows me on X and Facebook and all these other things, I don't know. Quora and all that. You've got to decide. You're grown folk. But let me leave you with this. Truth can handle scrutiny. If Islam's, I just did an episode, When is Today? And I talked about in that episode, today you shall be with me in paradise. The one thief says, the penitent thief says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Even today, you'll be with me in paradise. I talk all about that. If I may say so, that was a good episode. I really enjoyed doing that. But I made this statement. Lots of people say, well, his ways are higher than my ways. I don't understand the timing and all that and what it meant and all this stuff. It all came down to a comma. They didn't have punctuation. A comma was inserted. Things were changed around. Anyway, look, man, you can choose. I try to give you lots and lots and lots of excellent things to read, to watch, to listen. I do my dead level best. I try hard. Ultimately, if you and your faith can't handle the scrutiny, such as Islam, you're not allowed to even question Islam. If Islam's foundation is solid, it shouldn't crumble under a little honest history. But if it does, then that house wasn't built on a rock. So here's the challenge for you. Are you willing to go where the evidence leads? And I'm talking about believers in the Christian faith. I'm talking about Catholics. I'm talking about Episcopals and Methodists and Lutherans and Baptists and all that. Me as a follower of the way. Are you willing to go where the evidence leads, even if it offends culture, religion, or comfort? We've got to look. If we're going to do this, if we're going to look at them, if we're going to look at Islam and we're going to say, hey, man, doesn't add up. By the way, stop cutting people's heads off. Stop cutting people's hands off. Stop throwing people off of a roof with a rope tied to them. Stop beheading people. Stop stoning people. Stop running around the world killing people who don't agree with you. They're not ever. It's not how it's going to work. Your faith, the faith that you have, the faith in which you place your everything. I say it all the time. You've got to decide. Folks, you've got to decide. You've got to make a decision about God. You better decide what you're going to do about Jesus. Yes, well, you've got to decide what you're going to do about this faith. But one thing you can't do is you can't sit on a fence. Because he's coming back. He's not coming back as a baby. And when he does, time's up. When your time is up, you had better have confronted these challenging things and the dilemma of faith. I have decided to follow Yeshua. You can pretend that all of what I've taught prior to now doesn't matter, and you can go on with your day. I want you to go on with your day. I want you to have a wonderful day. My goodness, I don't want anybody to have a bad day. Or you can face the uncomfortable truth. Arm yourself with knowledge and stand on a rock that won't shift beneath your feet when the world starts shaking. I would encourage you, not because it does some big thing for me, because it doesn't. I would encourage you, share this episode. Share it with people who've been fed the sanitized version of history. Why? Because truth matters. Matters to me. It matters to you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for tuning in to True Word, Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn, teaching the Bible as
God
it
bless
was
you.
meant to be understood for a life that
And
truly
shalom.
matters. Join us next time for more life-changing truth. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up and subscribing.